Hello and welcome to Adobe Sparks 101, Lesson 2. In this lesson, you will be using the material you learned from Lesson 1 in combination with one of the 3 tutorials you chose to watch. This will be your assessment for this module, so please make sure you complete it to receive credit. This is what your assignment will look like. It is. You're going to tell me the name of your project, give me a brief description, which content standard you were using, who's the audience, the SAM-R rating, and which Adobe Sparks format you chose. Also below that, you're going to fill out the grading rubric. Let me show you an example of what this looks like. This is what I used for the infographic you see in Google Classroom listed under example. If you are using this module to gain knowledge for ways you can share information with colleagues and you are not a classroom teacher, please just tell me the name of what you created, a brief description of why you created it under content standard, write professional, and audience, you can tell me who it was created for, and the rest of it can all stay the same. The SAM-R rating, instead of thinking how that assignment would have looked in a classroom, how would it have looked before you learned how to use Adobe Sparks? Okay. Back to my assignment. Again, you don't have to do a final project. I used an assignment I did in class. So it was an infographic, and the description goes here. Students will create an infographic that contains a clear message using a minimum of 3 data points, all with different icon representations, and must cite an APA format, the 2 sources used to find the data. I used an ELA standard. My audience was 10th grade ELA. The SAM-R rating. So what you're going to do is, going back to lesson 1, you're going to think back to this model. The substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Keeping in mind, you would like to be in the transformation stage for this. You would like to either be under modification or redefinition. If you feel like your assignment is just a substitution, go ahead and change it. We really want to make sure we're at least in modification or redefinition or augmentation, and we're getting a little better, but substitution is what we want to stay away from. So you're going to tell me which level it falls under, and you're going to write 2 to 3 sentences about why it falls under. So I picked redefinition. If the project was simply to create an infographic using Adobe Sparks, this exercise would have been more of a substitution example. But because the final projects are being used as promotion for a school workshop and reaching an audience that would not be possible without technology, it falls under redefinition. So again, just a brief explanation telling me you know which of the SAM-R levels it falls under and describing to me why. Then go down to your grading rubric. If you are doing this outside of a classroom and it is not for an assignment, just go ahead and make sure you have 2 columns. One that's like, this worked really well and this did not work really well, and tell me how it worked really well. When you're doing curriculum standard, just tell me the message it was supposed to send. Did it send that message? For visual content standards, you can still go by what it should have looked like visually to make that message clear. For the rest of you who are in a classroom, you want to make sure you have at least 2 of these. I made 3 because this is typically how I do my grading rubrics. Proficient, progress towards proficiency, and working towards progression. And it corresponds with the letter grades A, C, or F. You need to make sure you have at least 2 of these. You can do pass or fail. You can also do A, B, C, D, and F. But at least you need 2 of these to get credit for the assignment. The first column is going to have your curriculum standard. Students will be able to, and then go ahead and paste your standard in here, and then tell me what that standard is going to look like. So my standard was integrate quantitative or technical analysis with qualitative analysis in print or digital text. So for them to get an A for that standard, they need to use 3 data points that accurately reflect the material cited in APA format in their bibliography. Their message should be clear and supported by their data points. And then we go down the line. The visual content standards is something you want to make sure that you start including. When you do work with Adobe Sparks, you're using Adobe Sparks to create a visual assignment. So what are the things you want in your assignment that you wouldn't necessarily have to spell out if they were doing it manually? So I want them to include 3 different icons that represent their data, and the layout should reflect the 5 types of infographics discussed in the lesson. So I'm talking about the layout, I'm talking about what they're using, and then I'm talking about the number of words. Again, this is really helpful when grading these and setting expectations for students. You also have a third one, optional. So if there's something else you want to include, you feel free to include that down here, another standard you want to include. But for this assignment, you need a minimum of 2 categories. Again, it can be passing and not passing. Or if you're doing this just solely for work and not in a classroom, you can do successful, unsuccessful. And what would that look like if your standard was the message you're trying to send and visual content? Great. I hope that you're able to take this back to your classroom and have fun creating.